If you have been watching social media over the last week or two with great intrigue and wondering exactly what this new wine at Boschendal is, well, there you go. That is your first glimpse of the brand new Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon from Boschendal. A very warm welcome to a special broadcast as Dan really likes wine and Boschendal bring you the introduction to a very special addition to the South African wine scene. It is the 2017 bottle. In fact, I've got a bottle of it here, the 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon from Boschendal on a lovely late autumn afternoon here in the Winelands. A warm welcome to all of you, wherever you may be around the world. Thank you for joining us here at Boschendal to taste this new wine, to find out why Boschendal, which isn't in Stellenbosch, very close to, but not quite in Stellenbosch, is making a Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon, and what a few people of consequence think of the wine as a result. We're going to be chatting over the course of the next little while to the winemaker, to somebody who knows this area particularly well. We're getting a history lesson on South African wine, and in particular Cabernet Sauvignon. And we've got some rather special guests here at Boschendal to give us their thoughts on the wine. There's been a great deal of excitement, a great deal of anticipation, but how does the wine shape up? Well, we'll find out very shortly. Let's kick off here at Boschendal. We've got two studios here. I'm sitting out on the deck. If you haven't been to Boschendal, you can see the mountains behind me, the garden where the chefs get so much of the fresh produce. The food is also a very important part of the Boschendal story. But also just outside in the kind of courtyard area, we find the guys responsible for the wine, and in particular the winemaker, the cellar master, along with the group cellar master. So let's cross over to them. Jacques and Stefan, a very warm welcome today. And what's a really, really exciting occasion. You've watched, as all of us have over the last weeks, the build-up, the excitement. What are Boschendal doing? What is this mystery wine? Now we get to tell the world. And Jacques, it's got to be a day that's really, really exciting for you in particular.
Hello, Dan. Thank you. Obviously, it's really, really exciting for us to launch this new Stellenbosch Cab 2017 vintage. Phenomenal. I must say, for me, it's a dream come true. I love Cabernet Sauvignon. Obviously, for Boschendal itself, it's so amazing to pair up the Boschendal class with a Stellenbosch signature. If you know the philosophy of Boschendal, it's to really go out and to source very, very specific terroirs and pair it up with specific cultivars, and to put the best out there what we can possibly make in South Africa. And then, like I said, it's an absolute pleasure to work with this specific terroir. It's the Helderberg region. We've really focused on Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a amazing grape variety to work with. Obviously, attention to detail and balance and focus. You need all of those things to make a good Cabernet Sauvignon. So, yeah, it's really a great privilege to share this.
Yeah, it's actually, I think for us, it's really a highlight for us. We've been working on this for almost 10 years to really to find the perfect Cabernet that we're happy with. We've really worked hard over the last decade looking at different sites, and at the end, we end up with Stellenbosch, and we all know Stellenbosch is the best area for Cabernet. So this wine is built around the terroir Stellenbosch, and especially the Helderberg region, where we're very close to the ocean. The vineyards is higher up in the mountains, so because it's a little bit higher, it's slightly cooler. And the great thing why that area is so good for Cabernet is the slow ripening.
Just losing our signal there for a second, but I think you're getting already a great sense of why this is so important, and it's a story that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in terms of already Boschendal has got such a wonderful range of wine. So why look out to Stellenbosch? But as you hear there from Jacques and from Stefan, just the opportunity that Stellenbosch grapes and Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon offers, one that was just too good to pass up. So a big thank you to Jacques and to Stefan, who have been such a big part of this story. And in fact, as we, I think they're going to jump back on with us in a second, I'm going to have my first sip of this particular wine. And it's wine that you too can try out, because we are running a competition. I see already plenty of people in the comments from all over the place. I see Dean Topham is morning from London. Wilhelmine Grobler, excitement from Palaborwa. Welcome in, Wilhelmine. We've got Francois from Edenvale in Johannesburg. Linel Nyakutsikwa saying it's beautiful down here. Well, it certainly is, and all the more so with a glass of this new 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon in hand. Now, in terms of our guests, I think we might have Jacques and Stefan back with us. If you can just, guys, if you are there, just give us a little more detail on already such a great portfolio of wine, especially the red wine. Fans will know wines like the Black Angus, huge fan base around the world. Not a decision to take lightly. So what prompted this conversation amongst you that this is the wine that we are going to be making? This is why we're going to head to Stellenbosch and create this cab.
Well, obviously, working with various different terroirs, getting exposure to different cultivars out there, being out in the vineyards continuously, spending some time with people like Stefan and knowing the soils and the vineyards so well, it was hard to not pursue the Cabernet Sauvignon. Like I said, specifically the Helderberg, Stellenbosch, that region itself. It's almost a sin not to make a good Cabernet from that area. And like I said, we are so blessed to work with it. Stefan, you can also give us a little bit more focus, just to really give us that feel for what we do in the vineyards and stuff to achieve this.
Yeah, I think before I say that, I just want to say that the great thing for us is also to launch 2017. 2017 is really one of the very best vintages of South Africa. If you want to buy wine to mature, 17 is personally one of my favorites. And I think Cabernet, it's something that doesn't work everywhere. That's why we focus on Stellenbosch and a lot of our focus. And we also invested now in the Helderberg region to make sure we get the right vineyards. But also just the secret is also to really work hard in the vineyards to make sure you get optimum flavor ripeness. You don't get green flavors or anything. So over the years, we've learned a lot. And that's why we are today where we're happy with what's in the bottle and we're excited to share it with everybody.
So obviously also with stuff like the black wines, like the Black Angus, we've been working with these premium Cabernet site vineyards, and we just saw the potential in some of these vineyards. And like Stefan also said, is that the attention to detail with Cabernet Sauvignon, and then also that to launch the Cabernet Sauvignon with the 2017 vintage, and just obviously also to have a look at what we've got in the cellar, 2018, 2019, to see that we can consistently produce quality of this and even better. That is quite exciting. So this is a really special day for me to be able to put this out and know what you're going to see in the future to come.
Well, I love the smiles on faces. They're great to see. I hope they're going to stay, gentlemen, because as we say goodbye to Jacques and Stefan, we welcome in a South African wine icon, somebody who knows not just wine fantastically, but Mr. Dainty Bailey. A very warm welcome. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
And it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you in particular about Cabernet Sauvignon, because there are a few people who know it better. And I'm also fascinated to see what you think of this wine, but I'm going to wait for your opinion on that. What I would love to do, though, is just have you give us a little bit of history and why for you Stellenbosch and Cabernet Sauvignon just come together so beautifully.
Well, that's a reasonably easy answer for me because of the terroir in Stellenbosch. It's got so many different terroirs in the district of Stellenbosch where you can plant. Some of the areas a little bit too high, you battle to get them properly ripe and everything like that, but by and large on the slopes of the Simonsberg and the slopes of Helderberg and some of the other Bottleray Hills and down towards Flottenberg down there, it's ideal terroir for Cabernet Sauvignon. And I think it was the first place in our wine industry where really made Cabernet Sauvignon the most important variety.
And you were a big part in ensuring that story and creating a world where Cabernet Sauvignon from Stellenbosch in particular is celebrated all over the world. What for you as a winemaker made it so romantic, made it a grape that you really loved working with?
Well, number one, it's a late ripener with us. So when you sort of threw all the other varieties, the white varieties and the other reds, and at the end when you're sort of tired and you suddenly come working with a vine variety like Cabernet Sauvignon that has this beautiful flavor, colors, etc., etc. And when it starts fermenting, You get the flavors of the wines coming through, and it really keeps you alive. It's always around about Easter time. You want to get back. Most of the winemakers want to go to a Manus or something for Easter, wherever, where they can go fishing and relax. But it's nice to have that as a sort of the finish, the last story before you shut up shop for the vintage.
I have to confess, I'm not the most objective when it comes to South African wine, because I think South Africa makes the best wine in the world. But I really do believe, even with my slight bias, that when you set a South African Cabernet Sauvignon up against Cabernet Sauvignon from the rest of the world, we genuinely do stand up to it and stand tall and deliver a wine that's as good as any.
Without a doubt. I mean, you've probably heard of that, the great wine tasting they had in Paris when California took on, what's his name? He passed away recently, Spurrier, I think his name is Steve Spurrier.
The Judgment of Paris.
Judgment of Paris. It's a pity we went there as well. And then in a blind tasting, if our Cabernet Sauvignons were there in a blind tasting, I'm sure we would have done better than California did.
Comfortably, Mr.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's taste some great Cabernet
Mr.
Sauvignon.
Bailey.
Let's try a glass of this. I know you've had a sip already. 2017. I remember when 2015 came out, we were all shouting and jumping and dancing, an amazing vintage. But 17 just gradually seems to be catching up, and in some cases even overtaking 15 as an outstanding vintage.
Without a doubt. I mean, 2015 was a good vintage. We don't have bad vintages in South Africa. Only some are better than others.
Good point.
But we never have a bad one. But anyway, the 15 up to that stage, the 15 showed up beautifully. And then came along 2017, and it appears to have the potential to be even better than the 15. But, you know, it's still early days. 2017, you like the Cabernet, maybe 3 to 5 years, around about 5 years. We'll see how it ages. And I'm sure that wine is really going to sing for its supper, the 2017.
You're watching us on a very special broadcast. Dan really likes wine with Boschendal here on this glorious estate. And Dempy and I are both looking very happy. There are two very nervous-looking gentlemen just the other side of our camera crew, though, because they're the guys responsible for making this wine. This is going to determine whether they sleep well for the next month or not, Davey. What are your thoughts on this wine?
I think this is a beautiful, just if you roll it around, look at the beautiful color there that it has. There's no browning. It's got a lovely garnet sort of red color. Very nice. And then when you swirl it with and you nose it, you get all different kinds of fruit flavors there. Some red fruits and some dried fruits coming through here. And obviously this wine has been in wood for some time. Since, say, maybe 2 years in wood, in small French oak barrels. And after that, it came out of there and then it was bottled. But, you know, wines, most people underestimate the value of bottle aging. Not aging in the barrel, bottle aging. And so with time and a couple of more years of bottle aging, I think this is going to be a superb wine. This will put Paris to shame.
If you can hear some childlike squeals of delight in the background, that would be Jacques and Stefan, who've just had the kind of endorsement every winemaker dreams of. Dempy likes your wine. That is particularly good news. Dempy, thank you so much. A little bit of history and a great assessment is much appreciated. And we look forward to finishing off the bottle with you and maybe one or two more.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to share a bench with you. You know, I'm coming off the bench and I'm a impact player, I think.
And a fabulous impact indeed. Dempy Bailey joining us with a touch of wine history there.
Thank you.
And great to have that assessment. He's clearly enjoyed the wine, and I can understand why. We're not going to go with just one opinion, though, as I look at all these people who are coming in, and we're looking at a couple of guests. So what I'm going to do, we're just waiting for a Greg Sherwood to join us coming in from the UK. He is a master of wine, and he's somebody whose wine opinion is held in very high esteem. He's also someone who's done so much for the South African wine story around the world, and in particular in the UK, where a lot of the wine that we get into that market comes via. We've also got, I think, Steve Steinfeld, who'll be joining us in just a moment, the Joburg foodie who has escaped Johannesburg and come down to join us here at Boschendal. Didn't take too much persuasion to get him to come down. And as we wait for him to join, just see a couple other people coming through. France Ace sounds amazing. Almost tasted through the screen. Pippa Carter, love that. Great comments from Dapey. And Paul Larson enjoying as well, watching over on YouTube. Well, let's go to the Joburg foodie and Steve Steinfeld. He's got a cult following around the country.
Hey Dan, how's it going?
Adventures. Welcome, Steve. I think I saw you on horseback just a few moments ago.
Hey Dan, are you? I think we've frozen the site, but we should be back.
Okay, just checking, Steve. Did I see you checking out Boschendal on the back of a horse a little earlier this morning?
Yes, it's been absolutely amazing being on the estate. It's actually my first time staying here, and yeah, it's the sheer magnitude of all they have to offer is truly magnificent. Went horseback riding this morning, and you just go through the farm, and you can't believe the expanse and how vast it is, and all they grow and do. I mean, you go past the pigs and the chickens and all the vines and fruit trees. It's really the most phenomenal project. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to trying the wine. It's actually my first time trying it, is now on camera, which is always exciting.
But it is a multifaceted space, Boschendal, but headlined by the wine today with our broadcast here and giving many people the chance to try it here today, yourself amongst them. You're somebody who's known, Steve, for making it quite clear when you don't like something, food or wine, and there have been a few people who've been on the wrong end of the Joburg foodie's palate. So I'm interested to see, what are your first impressions? What is this particular Cabernet Sauvignon saying to you?
I think it's absolutely delicious. First thing that hits me is that really weighty textured mouthfeel. Yeah, I think 2017, it's a great time to release it. It's had 4 years in bottle. And yeah, I think the wine is showing beautifully. Ripe, red fruits, gorgeous bit of tobacco, cigar box. Yeah, I think it's a stunning wine. Really grippy tannins, but I think, yeah, yummy is a go-to word. I know it's one that Mike Ratcliffe tends to use quite a bit. But it is a delicious, delicious wine.
And it's a wine that's got some terrific food pairings. You'll see some of the staff here at Boschendal in the background there behind Steve as our first courses come out for guests who are here today. Linnell Nyakutsikwa with a wonderful suggestion. Slow braised short ribs with creamy polenta. Linnell, that sounds like a fabulous idea. And if you're cooking, send an address. We'll all be around to join you shortly. And Gloria Helene, Cab Sav, Happy Dance, my favorite varietal. Just in terms of Cabernet Sauvignon, we're moving through late autumn into winter. A nice big red is many people's choice. Steve, for you, Cabernet Sauvignon in South Africa, we had Dampy give it some great acclaim. He's a huge fan. From a media perspective, is it still a champion grape? Is it still a wine that the people are drinking happily, engaging with, and really enjoying?
Most definitely. And I think, if anything, it actually has become incredibly finessed over time. I think if you look back to some of the older Cabernets that were made, looking a few years back, they would often be quite big and powerful, and the jammy kind of notes that would come through. And I think we're really finding our flow in terms of much more refined, elegant, complex cabs that I think showing wonderfully, I wouldn't say for their age, but not even for their age. So I think especially out of Stellenbosch, the cab is spectacular.
It is, of course, a challenge for many of our winemakers. South Africans like to drink their wine quite young in many cases, and so you have to make wine that is approachable from relative youth. But Jacques Viljoen there wanting to know the aging potential, and there's still a wonderful freshness to this wine. There's still, it's really just getting out of the blocks, and so while it's certainly very drinkable now, as we're both discovering, this is a wine 10, 15, 20 years time, if you've cellared it properly, kept your temperature right, and looked after it, this has got a long road ahead of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's showing wonderfully now. but you just know there's the potential there for beautiful development with age. I think, as you say, with great cellaring, this could go on for, many years, 15, 20 years. And I think, it definitely will stand the test of time based off this, first tasting.
So the idea is to get hold of some now, try a little now and try some a little later and see how that wine unfolds. And in fact, you have the chance to do exactly that. There are so many of you watching from around the world. It's great to have you all with us. We will be giving away not one, not two, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, but 10 cases of this new Cabernet Sauvignon. We'll have 10 winners. And just by being part of the conversation, by sending in your comments, by interacting with us, we will be selecting those winners over the next couple of days. So thank you for watching, and 10 of you will be able to taste this particular Cabernet Sauvignon. We know you as the Joburg foodie. You're a most accomplished wine writer as well, but food is the headline act. If I come around for dinner at Casa Joburg Foodie, what exactly are you preparing to make the best of this particular Boschendal Cabernet Sauvignon?
I think I'm going to not play it safe, but I know you are very involved in the Greek community. I would go for lamb. I think cab and lamb is a tried and tested, pairing, works wonderfully. I think it would show beautifully with the rich fruits that are coming out here, maybe a beautiful roast, bit of lavender, just keep it simple, maybe some roast potatoes on the side. And I think cracking pairing for a winter lunch.
It does sound terrific. Steve, thank you very much. Lovely to have you down at Boschendal. Lovely to get your thoughts on a wine that Luke Meiklejohn wants to have a look at. Can we see the bottle? Well, here you go. I have to tell you, Luke, I can barely hold it up with one hand. This is a hefty bottle, but it's got some pretty hefty wine in it as well, and it's just got a real sense of presence to it, as does our next guest. As we say goodbye to the Joburg foodie, we head over to London, and a very good friend of mine. He's kind of the South African official wine ambassador of the UK, and it's great to have him with us. Greg Sherwood, a very, very warm welcome.
Hi, Dan. Can you hear me all right?
I can indeed, from the Hanford Wine Cellar in London, from which so much fabulous South African wine makes its way around the UK. Lovely to have you here. It's a beautiful day at Boschendal as we move into late autumn. And I know every time we talk, you're very envious because you haven't been home for a while. But what you have been doing is spreading the gospel of South African wine so well, so successfully. Just before we ask you a little about Cab and about this wine in particular, give us an update on the South African wine story in the UK. How are we looking at people still eagerly and enthusiastically drinking South African wine?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Just when we think kind of things are starting to kind of wane and quieten down, then there's another kind of seismic super spreader event. And the most recent one was obviously Neil Martin's new report, which kind of reignited the kind of interest in new vintages and new releases, some of which did come out end of last year, but some of which are still coming now. So a lot of new vintages, some nice big scores, a lot of great write-ups for new young producers. So, it's just to kind of reignite the excitement in the whole market here. So it's great for us. And then, of course, I've been very busy with tasting and reviewing lots of new releases of some very kind of mega wines, things like the Villafante Series M18, yesterday's launch of the MR de Compostela 18, and we've still got a bit of Paul Sauer 18 to kind of do a bit of homework on. So these are all very exciting things coming, and the market kind of does actually wait now, and is really kind of bated breath. And for these new releases, there's a great following for these, and a few other kind of exciting little wines coming on the way as well.
It's lovely to hear some of those big South African names being mentioned in the context of today's conversation, because I suspect that this Cabernet Sauvignon is going to fit straight into that space. The Cabernet Sauvignon story, I know we often talk about Chenin Blanc and Chenin-led blends being such a big part, but the Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon does wave a large and very proud flag for South African wine abroad.
Yeah, I think, if I remember, kind of a lot of it was reignited when around about the time of the 2014 2015, I think, Cape Wine show, and we did the Kingdom of Cabernet tasting, and there was a lot of whinging about how Stellenbosch was resting on its laurels, and Stellenbosch Pol kind of, and all these great iconic wineries which made wines that everybody grew up on, and everyone was just basically whinging about the young guns and upstarts. And I said, for goodness sake, just get on with your stuff, and get those wines out there. And fortunately, then not long after that, the 2015s hit the market, and the 2017s, and it's been a great impetus for just all the top, some of them traditional, old famous estates, things like Boschendal and your Meerlists and all your Lariches, and obviously those things. But even some newer, smaller names which have been kind of brought into the twilight by things like the Cabernet Collective, which has done a great job in highlighting a lot of the little producers, which a lot of people hadn't maybe heard of, which have maybe been more established in the local home market. But certainly, you need the big guns to really kind of have the full trickle down effect for the whole category. And I know Chris de la Riche and the Mybergs and Canon Crickers, and so you do need the Giles and Thomas Webb. You do need those big Tolima names and the kind of the stalwarts to just lend the whole category extra impetus, especially overseas with with collectors and that. And that's been done, and it opens new doors for new wines, new producers, new cuvées, new up and coming wines. So very exciting, and it gives me a lot of work as a wine buyer and also somebody reviewing new vintages. So it's very exciting.
All right, well, let's have a look at the particular wine. A wonderful overview of Cabernet Sauvignon at the moment. 2017, the Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon from Boschendal. I know that a bottle has found its way to the Greg Sherwood Tasting Centre, and a busy centre that is. I know you've had a taste of it. What are your thoughts, Greg Sherwood?
Well, it's quite funny because I'd actually just been tasting through a couple of the other Boschendal Reds. And I did have quite a few. We had a nice bride there last year in February. Obviously, this wine wasn't released yet, and I tried through some of their blends, and this bottle was then said, actually, sorry, we forgot to include this bottle. It's just being released. And I said, no, sure, nice Cabernet 17. I tell you, I was really, really impressed. It was absolutely fantastic. Comes in at a great price point. I think around £20. Just fantastic quality. Obviously, you're getting the incredible 2017 vintage character there, but such balance, such that kind of weightless, elegant concentration of the 17 vintage with such harmony and precision. And that's a real hallmark of the vintage. The 15s maybe had a bit more mid-palate gravitas and muscle, but that's by no means necessary always, for long-term aging. And just, the most important thing is balance, freshness, and just elegance right from the word go. And I was really, really impressed with this wine. And then I'd totally forgotten that the man behind it all is obviously Jacques, which I've known for many years. And I just totally forgot that. I was thinking, these Boschendal wines are really singing, really cracking. And of course, when I remembered today's tasting, I saw there's always a cause for this fantastic quality resurgence of the great old Boschendals. And I was just looking here. We tried this. There's a bit of 1978 Boschendal Cabernet which we tried end of last year, and it was actually 78 revolutions per minute. We did 78s from all around the world, and this probably was one of the top wines in the whole tasting. We had about 14 wines from California, Spain, France, all over, Australia. And I think this came in the top 2 wines. It was really, really fantastic. So that it just shows the old historical pedigree of this great estate. And I think that 2017 Cabernet kind of is made, kind of with this kind of grandeur in mind. And it is such a luxurious, fabulous wine. I just loved it.
I think between yourself and Dame Bailey, you've made Jacques a very happy winemaker, but rightly so. Greg, thank you so much for taking some time out to join us today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on the new Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon from Boschendal. And thank you from the South African wine community, because you're a single-handed force of nature for good for our wine world, and we're very grateful for it. So thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Dan, and everyone. Keep it up. We're loving the wines, and they're selling well. And every shipment that arrives, I think this 2017 from Boschendal is landing or is about to land now in May. So I've got a lot of eager, thirsty customers looking forward to trying it.
So there we go. South African Master of Wine, Greg Sherwood from Hanford Wines in London, sending South African wine out to the Grazer UK, doing a terrific job of it and loving the 2017 Boschendal Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a great endorsement. Well, let's get another endorsement, or see if we get another endorsement as we move to somebody else in the wine industry, but this time on the retail front of the shop floor. She's one of my favorite sommeliers, and she joins us from Saint Restaurant up in Johannesburg. David Higgs, the former South African Chef of the Year, his Italian superstar, joined. Carlejo, a very warm welcome, and thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hey, Dan. Good, and you?
I'm extremely well, and I'm very excited to find out what you think about this particular wine, because you've got a terrific palate, and you always surprise me with great wine when we come up to Saint and come and dine with you. But before we get your thoughts on the wine, for people who haven't come across you, because you're still in the very early days of a wonderful career as a sommelier, give us just a little reminder of how you found yourself into the world of wine and what it is about being a sommelier that's quite so special for you.
Okay, so I would say Skatlejo grew up in a very small town from Limpopo, Pedigo. So came to Johannesburg to study travel and tourism, and well, high school wise, I wanted to study geology and, study the rocks in the earth. So long story short, I found myself in the hospitality industry, and wine was just something that they kept throwing at me, and I just couldn't understand why. So I took it upon myself to study it, research it, and halfway into it, it just created this love for it, this intriguement, just wanting to know more, only to find out it's a whole world of beautiful wines from all around the countries, and it just became a very beautiful passion to me.
And then, it's a passion I've seen firsthand on many occasions, and we've had some great wine together at Saint. And your job is an interesting one as a sommelier. It's such a valuable one, trying to pair up what people like with the food that they're having, and ensuring that the food and the wine come together for an even greater success story. And I know at Saint a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon goes flying out of that fabulous cellar of yours. What is the broader appeal of Cabernet Sauvignon for you before we go into this particular one?
Personally, I'm a big fan for bold Cabernets. So it hits very close to my heart. And restaurant-wise, the Saint is honestly well received. A lot of people really do like nicely structured Cabernet. And I love that the Boschendal 2017, it is bold, it has nice repeat tannins, it's super juicy. And honestly, it can go with almost 50% of what we have on the menu here at Saint. And I love that you can also have it by its own. So for me, that is a big winner.
And we've already heard from Dame Bailey. We've heard from Greg Sherwood, some wonderful endorsements of this particular wine. You mentioned very briefly some of the things you like about it, but give us a little bit more detail. It's a fresh wine, but one that's got a lovely road ahead of it. Where's the appeal for you? Where is this wine hitting the sweet spot for Kat?
So for me, honestly, is in the earthiness that it presents on the nose. So it's a lot of forest floor. It just reminds me of spring just after it just rained. That nice earthiness for me, a lot of dark fruit, and it has quite enough of a body, although it's still a 2017. It's a teenager that is figuring itself out very well. And the tannins are still nice and slightly grippy, so it has a really good aging potential in my opinion. And it's just very juicy, hey. I just can't get the taste out of my mouth. It has a beautiful long finish. I just want to have a ostrich loin with it just now, even the Springbok. super hungry.
So it's interesting you mentioned venison. I see Willem Grobelaar saying leg of impala, couscous, Boschendal cab, and the bush. Well, that does sound like a very special combination. Last I checked, I'm not sure there was too much ostrich or springbok on the menu at Saint. So if somebody is coming to visit, having some cab, what's on the Saint menu that does real justice to this wine?
Besides the springbok loin that we have with the spinach ravioli and the Brussels sprouts, just that earthy component of it, the umami feel, it can balance it out quite nicely. Besides that, I would say you can do our filet pasta with the tagliatelle, a bit of puccini mushrooms, something with a little bit of umami can balance it out quite nicely as well, because it has just enough salt in it. And honestly, any of our pizzas would match quite beautifully with it, in my opinion.
All right, I think that's a great selection. I'm not sure where I'd start there. In just a moment, Alison from the Sunday Times is going to be joining us. But a last question for you, Kat, before we let you get back to your diners. What's the one thing as a sommelier you would love to tell people who are watching about coming to a restaurant to make the most of the wine, the sommelier experience, the thing that maybe they get wrong, maybe annoys you occasionally, that they should really know about for their next visit to Saint or to another great restaurant?
I would say the biggest thing is walk in the doors with an open mind. So just because we're sommeliers, I know there's a big saying around it that we're always out to sell the most expensive wines. And that is not honestly true. We just want you to be able to have a really good experience, no matter what budget you come in through the doors with. We have literally every price range for everyone. So just walk in with an open mind, be open to new suggestions. And honestly, you would leave here extremely happy and will welcome you back with open arms.
There we go. It's a terrific philosophy from a terrific sommelier. Kat, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of the wine. And thanks for being a wonderful, wonderful part of our wine community in South Africa. Cheers.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. Cheers.
So there we go. Kat Lego up at Saint, enjoying a wine which I suspect my next guest will be doing as well. Alison, a very warm welcome.
Nice to see you.
Lovely to have you on the show. Lovely to be here at Boschendal. I find that when I come out to Boschendal, to a number of our wine estates, no matter how often we get out to these places, it just gives you another very vivid reminder that, gee, we live in a beautiful country.
We are so lucky. And gosh, the vista, looking just behind you, these organic gardens, it's exquisite. They are so on top of all aspects of natural, organic, and of course now they're coming hot with this Cab Sav. Couldn't wish for anything better. What a perfect way to start a fine day like today.
Indeed. I think we're almost kicking off the weekend. It's kind of got that feel to it.
It's Fake Friday.
I want to get your thoughts on the wine in just a moment, but let's talk a little more generally to start with. The South African wine story is sometimes a difficult one to sell overseas because we do so many wines so well. So are we focusing on one? Are we trying to focus on everything? From a white side, we know how well Chenin Blanc does, but there is, and we heard from Greg Sherwood in London a little earlier, just something about Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon. It is A, brilliant, and B, it's managed to find its way into the hearts of drinkers around the world.
I think you're right. I mean, from what I've experienced, the Stellenbosch terroir is just so perfect for these reds. The Bordeaux varietals are coming in strong. And listening to what Jacques Viljoen was talking about recently, he just said that this particular harvest was a textbook vintage. The low hang, it was, they picked very slowly. They didn't rush it. The timing was everything. He's really good at that. So they assessed it so well. They didn't bow to pressure. They just went and collected that harvest timely and excellently, and we're just reaping the benefits. How lucky are we? It's a beautiful cab.
Very lucky. Dave P. Bailey, who was on the show a little earlier, was speaking about how we don't actually have bad vintages in South Africa. We've just got good ones, very good ones.
Yes.
And 2017, and we've said it already on this show, but we'll repeat it, 2017 is turning into something very special indeed.
It is outstanding. And I think, as you say, in South Africa, it's good, better, best. There is no bad vintage. There is no bad wine. I mean, we've got the top winemakers, cellarmasters like Jacques. I mean, we're so fortunate, and I feel really excited about this launch. Can't wait to really enjoy it with a glass, with a beautiful meal at the bed. And so, yeah, I mean, as you say, you're on point with everything. We are very fortunate, and I think cheers to this 2017 year that we are fortunate to be experiencing and enjoying.
It is unfolding beautifully. There are a lot of you watching from around the world. We're very grateful for that watching, hopefully entering our competition to win a case of this wine as well. I know we're going to elicit a lot of envy here because we have the wine and most of you don't have it yet, although I'm sure you will have it soon. From your perspective, what's Jacques captured here? What is setting this apart as a Cabernet Sauvignon?
It's funny enough, it's a sunny wine for me. It's got those elements of the fruit. I feel that he has captured it's smooth, it's a classic wine, and I think it's going to be well paired with a number of things, not necessarily your traditional thing, you've got to pair this with your meat variety, your meat dishes or whatever. I think he's just got something uniquely special here, and he's so excited about it. And I think it's one thing for the cellar master to be enthused, but when he's just captured the essence of a magnificent Cab Sav. It kind of reminds me of what I've had in France. I mean, he's got that whole French history of, where he worked with those winemakers in those regions. And I think, as he said, these varietals are outstanding. And I think it's rich, it's classic, it's got everything.
We've had a number of people asking about food, and you've already mentioned a couple of things. We can shy away from just having your classic big steak and a Cabernet Sauvignon, as good as that is.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of our viewers a little earlier, I forget who it was, my apologies, was asking, well, could I have this with a vegetarian dish? You certainly could. What would you recommend if you are vegetarian or vegan and you're looking for something to go with this Cab?
Well, funny enough, I am mostly vegetarian, unless I'm tempted by chefs like what we've about to experience at the VAT, then I become a flexitarian. But you could have this with for me, it's with a halloumi salad. It could be anything like that. So any time of the day. So it could be a lunchtime. It's an easy drinking wine. It's full-bodied enough to be enjoyed at the fireside with your steak, as you've mentioned. But over lunch, overlooking a view like this, it kind of fits all menu profiles. You can't go wrong.
Which almost adds to the one half of the two big challenges I find with this wine. One of them is, well, there is so much I can eat with it, so what am I going to choose? The other is, right, well, I've got a bottle. It's drinking delightfully at the moment, but it is still so young and so fresh. Am I drinking it now, or do I have the patience? Do I have the determination to stick it away in my cellar and keep it?
I don't think so. I think you might have to imbibe quite swiftly. It's going to be difficult to resist the temptation, but we'll experience it with lunch today, the VAT, and then we will hopefully get to take a bottle away, and then we will just enjoy it. We'll share it if we can.
It's been an absolute delight having you, sharing some thoughts and enjoying the wine. There's more of it to enjoy, so let you do that and enjoy the lunch. Thank you, and thank you for being part of our celebrations today.
Thanks for having me.
There we go. Alison joining us in Sunday Times.
Cheers.
With some wonderful Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's finding great favour, isn't it? I'm seeing from all of you who are watching, a lot of people really interested in the wine, a lot of people excited by the wine, and then I had one particular comment which I was very excited. Somebody say, "Is it true that Maps Mapognane is at Boschendal today?" I thought, no, that can't possibly be true. I mean, Maps Mapognane, the Mapognane twins, because there are two of them, but is he really joining us in Boschendal? Well, I'm going to go and find out, and while we wait and see if probably the single biggest celebrity in South Africa is actually with us today, let's have another look at the beauty of Boschendal. Right, well, in fact, one half of the Mapognane twins is indeed here with us. It's a warm welcome. And it's lovely to have you out here. And people might think, well, what on earth is Maps Mapognane doing here? Shouldn't he be modelling or being on the cover of magazines or stuff like that, or on the golf course? But something that I know well from you as a very close friend of mine is that there's a great love of food and wine. And in fact, it annoys me so much because you eat more than any other human being I've ever come across and yet still look like this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think also through you, thankfully being through your tutelage, learning quite a bit about great food and great wine and great places around South Africa. It's something that we've been able to bond over the years. It's really, really made me even more curious, especially with entering the food space recently, having my own restaurants. It's made me more curious as to how we can always achieve the most quality and how I can experience incredible places around the country which have the best food, different kinds of food, best kind of wine and different variations of great alcohol because of how well how lucky we are, firstly, with our landscape, and then how we punch with some of the best in the world. And as far as wine goes, we definitely are the best in the world, in my opinion. And
There, we lost you for just a second.
There we go.
Apologies. I think that is now. That was probably 8 million 19-year-old girls suddenly logging on.
See that make the ages so low?
Their mums love you as well. So cheers to you, and cheers to a good friend of ours, because joining us is not just Maps Mapanyane, but probably the only person we could find who's actually in better shape than Maps Mapanyane. He's currently in Athens at the moment. Like me, he has a Greek wife. He's a good friend of both Maps and myself. A very warm welcome to Boschendal virtually to Cameron van der Berg, our Olympic gold medal winning swimmer. Cam, welcome. Lovely to see you. Oh, there we go, Cameron. I think he's asleep.
Hey, Dan. How you doing? How's it going?
Oh, very well indeed. Lovely to see you, and lovely to talk to you in the space of wine. Normally we talk about swimming and Olympics. Now we get to talk to you and Maps about wine, and that's a real passion of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think going back to the first that I had with my wife, Dan, I wasn't too much of a wine drinker, but it fed her and I so much wine on that night that obviously she fell in love with me and I fell in love with the wine. So it kind of ended off pretty well on both sides. I mean, I'm not complaining either. So but wine is obviously something that I've said mentioned. We're very fortunate. I was very fortunate in South Africa when I moved down to Cape Town to explore and get down there. See all the wine farms and meet the winemakers, and you hear the most incredible story. And I think it's always that kind of background story that goes into what you're drinking that makes it exciting for me. And being in London, only having this damn French wine everywhere, it's a bit disappointing. So I'm really happy to be drinking one of the new Boschendals today.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would have to agree with Cameron on that. Like, it's so beautiful to learn the stories of the winemakers and their journeys. And I mean, Cam, a lot like you, I also have a far greater personality after a good glass or two.
Well, cheers to that, man. It's good to see you on that.
You guys both work in spaces where you've got to be looking good, be fit, be athletic. How feasible is it? Cameron, in the build-up to an Olympic Games, could you have a glass of wine? Maps, as you're getting ready for a men's health cover, can you be drinking glasses of wine? Is it feasible to work that into the lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, I'll for me, I think I used to cut out a lot of alcohol towards the competition. So I think, in the peak of our training regime for the last 4 months, I'll be drinking only sort of towards the off season that we're allowed to really indulge in. I'm the kind of guy that I struggle to have just one glass. I enjoy having a few and tasting with my food and and having a good night. Obviously, always responsibly, but now that I've been retired, it's a lot easier, obviously. And that being said, though, do have to be a little bit more careful because now that I'm not training 8 hours a day, you do have to limit the sugar intake. So that is a bit of a give and a take, yeah.
Yes, I mean, unlike Cameron, I haven't retired, but it hasn't kept me from drinking like I have retired. it's you're 100% right. I mean, it's something you just have to manage as well as possible. But I think there's no real enjoyment of anything without balance, right? So there's a really great beauty that comes with being able to keep some sort of good regime, but then when you go up for a good dinner and you want to enjoy it with a good glass of wine, it's that reward, it's that life that you want to be able to have the most balance with, and find great glasses of wine, great bottles of wine, and not just drink for the sake of drinking. I think that's what's so beautiful about days like this, where you get to find out the full story of the winemakers. Shows such as Dan Really Likes Wine, where you think, if I'm going to do it, let me find some of the best and different variations that suit my palate, that suit my taste, the variations that I like, the varietals that I enjoy. And I think to learn about that and then to taste that and to embrace that makes it so much more fun.
Well, let's see if this particular wine suits your palate and Cameron's palate. Cam, before we let you get back to your large lamb lunch in Athens, what do you make of this particular wine? Is it finding favor with Cameron van der Berg?
It is indeed, actually. It's finding a lot of favor. It's quite an easy drinker, I must be honest, and very pleasant, I think, for effectively. It's not too old, 2017. It can still age for quite a lot, but super smooth. Tannins are not too intense, which I do find sometimes with South African wine. It's quite strong and a lot of sulfates, but this is quite nice and smooth. And it's so good. I did open a bottle in South Africa just before I left, and my father-in-law was quite keen to be on the ordering list, so it's definitely going pretty well down in the household as well.
I think that smile on the face really says all of it.
Again, with a great lamb and with a great steak.
Well, the only thing I could think that would improve, rather than one of us being digitally separated. So, Cam, I know London is home now, but South Africa still remains very much at heart. So I'm going to set aside a few bottles of this Boschendal Stellenbosch.
Good for them.
I think we are now back. There we go. My apologies. We've had there we go. There's. Look forward to having you back in South Africa and some more wine together soon.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah, sorry I lost you there, but cheers to you and cheers to everyone. Thanks a lot. It was a treat to have one of the first bottles, so thank you.
There we go. All right. Well, as we say goodbye to Cameron, we say hello to a rather accomplished chef who I suspect had something of a challenge today, because Here we got somebody who makes magic every day in the kitchen. You can make pretty much anything you want. You've got this Cabernet Sauvignon. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to create a dish today, our main course, that's not only going to show off the best of what you do, and gee, you do it well, but also this wine that Jacques has made, and ensure that he's still talking to you tomorrow because you've given him the perfect dish. What is that challenge like in getting the best out of wine and food together and ensuring that concert, that duet is just right?
So the way we cook at Boschendal is we try not to do too much. We have amazing ingredients. We allow the ingredients to speak for itself. And the same concept when we're preparing the dish, we put into creating the dish with the wine. So the dish will speak for itself. All the flavors of the beef will pop. We've got some aubergine there that we've roasted, a little bit of smokiness. We've got some beetroot in there that we've roasted on open fire. And once the natural juices, natural sugars start to caramelize, you pick up hints of red fruit. So it all adds to the combination and the pairing with the wine. But yet everything is still subtle and it allows the wine to shine. It's an amazing wine, but you should be able to still pick up how impressive and how
Right, I think we are back in. There we go. So sorry, my apologies. The one of the downsides of being out in such rural parts of the world is occasionally even the internet struggles to get out. I suspect it might have stopped for a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, and rightly so. Sitting behind us, not just a beautiful view, but incredible gardens, and that is a big part of the food that you make here. The freshness, the local ingredients, the focus on creating from home the dishes that we eat here at Boschendal.
Definitely, the garden dictates to us what to cook. All we do is bring a bit of sexiness, a bit of class, a bit of skill, if you want to call it that. And it's amazing to be able to be led by the beauty and by the seasonality of what the garden produces. And sometimes we just don't produce enough. We produce a small amount of the best types of beetroot, and that's it, and we move on to something else. Being able to make that change, being able to be flexible, but still allowing the garden to dictate and be able to showcase the best that we have to offer. It's a wonderful experience.
You have so much of that to offer. I know that your diners are waiting, as is your kitchen. But before I let you to escape back to your place of work, the versatility of Cabernet Sauvignon, we've chatted to a couple of guests about it already. But for you as the chef, yes, you've given us our dish. What's something else that might surprise people? You'd say, hang on, that would go beautifully with this wine.
So I love standing around fire. Any lamb on an open flame, any beef on an open flame. You can even do some pieces of beautiful pork with nice mature pork. Gamey flavors, but not too hectic, because the freshness, the fruitiness of the wine still needs to come through. There's many options. This wine is beautiful, it's versatile. It's spoiled for choice, I think.
Chef, we're also spoiled by you, so thank you. I'll let you get back to your kitchen, but thanks for the lovely meal we're about to have. Thanks for doing such great justice to the wine.
Cheers.
There we go. We've got one final guest just before we wrap up and say goodbye to you. Remember to head over to the Boschendal website to register to join our competition. There are 10 cases of this wonderful wine to give away. Let's get a final word. Jacques, come and join me. Final word from our winemaker. Now, this is the look of somebody who's just got his first bike at Christmas, aged 4. He hasn't stopped smiling. You've had Dame Pete Bailey say this wine's amazing. You've had Greg at Sherwood tell you this wine's incredible. Catalejo up at Saint telling you how much he loves it. Yeah, everybody just thinks this is a winner.
Look, I just want to say I feel so blessed to share this with you guys. It's awesome, and I just want to say thank you to everybody just giving this wine a heads up as well. I just can't help it. I've been keeping it, not a secret, but I've been keeping this for a secret for quite some time. I remember the first time that we did the bottling for the specific wine. It was as a bottling with basically minimalistic filtration there. So it's just a very, very, we call it a fly catcher, like a coarse filtration straight after the blend's been made up and has been married up in tank. Then we just move it through a coarse filter. And I was so excited, the Stellenbosch bottle and everything. And I took a picture and I posted it on Instagram, and immediately everybody's like, whoa, what are you doing? It's going to be a major launch on this. But I was so excited. So I've had to keep this a secret for some time. Obviously, we've been doing some sneak peeks of tastings every year and now and then. But it's awesome to share this with you guys. And thank you very much, Dan. Thank you so much. And I hope you're going to enjoy it. And there's so much more to come. I've made up the 2018 blend and 2019 as well. Obviously, it's just so nice to know what's going to come still come out for the Cabernet Sauvignon. Obviously, 2017 vintage, a phenomenal year. A phenomenal year to launch a Stellenbosch Cab. So.
Well, it is a wine that is new, but is off to a flying start. So congratulations on that. Thank you for giving us something to celebrate as enthusiastically as we have. A big thank you to everybody who's been part of the show today. We've had a whole range of guests. Alison from the Sunday Times, Dame P, who's been making wine since I think about the 1600s in broader Stellenbosch. We got a chance to chat to Steve, the Joburg foodie, Katlego up in Joburg, Greg in London. But I think most importantly, thank you to all of you who've joined us from all over the world who have won. And congratulations to, in particular, Radi, Tabo, Elzan, Ian, Matthew, Michelle, Janet, Janine, Anton, and Okolo, who have all won a case of the wine. If you haven't won it, well, you can still be a winner, because just by drinking this wine, you're on to a champion. You can find out some more about Boschendal later on. The usual 5 o'clock live show of Dan Really Likes Wine will be coming to you again from Boschendal, when Jacques and myself will be delving into this wine in a little more detail and also looking at some of the other great reds from Boschendal. But right now there is a fabulous meal that awaits both of us, some more wine to taste and some people to hang out with. So from Boschendal, thank you for joining us. It is now available. It is the 2017 Boschendal Stellenbosch Cabernet Sauvignon. It's the first time it's out. It certainly won't be the last. Cabernet Sauvignon in South Africa has got a wonderful new addition. I'm Dan Nicol from the entire Boschendal team and from Dan Really Likes Wine. Thank you for joining us. Keep supporting and drinking South African wine. And goodbye from Boschendal.
Cheers.